me see. Let me see if it comes back on. Yeah, it's back on now. All right.
Yep.
Just all right, cool.
Refresh the page.
All right, because I really want to get that going, man. I really want to make sure that we have that info. So Ubisoft went through a situation, right, where they received some form of bomb threat. This was back in 2000, and it came about where that specific activity, they have narrowed it down to a player who has been grieving the actual Ubisoft themselves. It's very interesting when you think about it, because this player, he wanted he talked about a bomb threat. He talked about murdering an executive, in hopes that the cops would come through and do whatever. The first incident was everybody's on top of the roof, and then the police force or task force went around the whole building just searching for any form of material that would be considered dangerous in that building, jeopardizing the lives, and they didn't find anything. Another one was when I think there was a second attack over a phone, I guess, talking about, I think it was the same one, but it was saying it was in a daycare center or something stupid like that for Ubisoft. It was weird. It was so anyways, is this guy, he wanted people to be banned, he wanted the ability to ban, and he wanted the devs to do something specific. It was stupid.
Wow.
So I'm, first and foremost, what happened just a while ago with the stream kind of messed up the flow, but I'm really trying to push forward here that the situation, they kind of narrowed it down because the guy was claiming that he's done certain things online during gameplay, right? So it's just a continuation of players being disrespectful, being very toxic, right? But now is gone to the devs. So keep Ubisoft in mind, because Ubisoft been through a lot in the game industry as well, having to do when we think about Assassin's Creed Unity, and how that was, and I think even Assassin's Creed, I don't know if it was the one where it had a brother and sister fighting, Syndicate. That one went through some issues as well. So these guys, they are pros at creating open world environments. The only problem is, the people missing their faces and things of that nature. So they have their own troubles, and to add on to it, this is kind of just crazy. So for those who are Ubisoft fans, just keep them in mind. Definitely lift them up, on social media. Let them know that you're here and you're still playing their games, and you want them to continue doing what they do. So just wanted to throw that out there. But that's pretty messed up.
Yeah, for sure.
Dio.
Yes, sir.
Sony. State of Play.
Yeah. Oh my god.
That was an epic intro.
Okay. Before
That's how forgettable it was, man.
Bro, dude, I heard about it. I forgot it was happening, right? So I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch this because competition, corporate competition. You want it to happen, that it just provides better innovations moving forward, because these companies want their consumers to stay with them. So I'm like, okay, let me see what they got to offer, because Dio says, I'm not gonna get a PlayStation. You know what I'm saying? There's no need when I have Game Pass. You know what I'm saying? And stuff like that. I mean, I might be overphrasing, but So I'm hoping like, hey, they might have something on Final Fantasy 16, something, about, what was that game? The Returnal, because everybody was talking big about it over social media. So I was hoping they'd have something about it. Dio, tell us, how did you feel? How was it? How magnificent was the
well, it was maybe like 20 minutes long, which is doesn't sound bad, right? But 15 minutes of that was all about Ratchet and Clank, which, in their defense, everyone's been waiting forever to hear more about it. And to tell you the truth, it looked really pretty. Like, the game looked gorgeous. The UI looked very clean and small. It looked like an immersive world. It was, that whole part with Ratchet and Clank was very good. If you're not into Ratchet and Clank, I mean, I can't lie to you. I've never played any of them because I've never had an interest in playing them. But if you're just a typical Sony fan and you're just not into Ratchet and Clank and you want to see other things that are coming out, you would have been very disappointed because it literally talked about nothing else. The only two other games they talked about was Subnautica, the sequel, which looked kind of cool, but I mean, obviously it's not going to be exclusive. And Among Us, I mean, everybody's known Among Us is going to consoles. It's been on mobile and Switch for like almost a whole year now.
Right.
Like, that was so disappointing to see Among Us there. Like, I thought that was so stupid. I didn't get that at all. And not only that, I mean, both of those other two games were
multiplayer,
a minute or two each.
Oh, what? Yeah, you're right. Now, the thing about it that really got me, because they got me on the video and I was looking at it, and then when Ratchet and Clank was done, it says, thank you for watching.
Yeah.
And I was like, and then it just was a black screen, and I was staring at it, just hoping that there was more. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, it's a stream. It's a pre-recorded vibe, and if anyone needed to do something, it would have been Sony. We don't need anything from Stadia. We don't need anything from Epic. We don't need anything. I mean, yeah, we do need. Well, Nintendo did their thing already.
Yeah.
Right. Lumina would have been something definitely worth interested in watching, but I mean, we know what they're doing. They're trying to compete with Game Pass. PlayStation is not in competition with Game Pass. PlayStation is in competition with just the Xbox as a console.
Yeah.
And as well as Games with Gold. That's the only thing they're in competition with. Games with Gold and Xbox as a console. Anything else, you can just basically kiss goodbye. So you about to say something? I hear.
Yeah. I mean, it still would have been pretty disappointing if they put Returnal stuff in there, but I still think if they put Returnal in there instead, like even the Among Us, it would have been more interesting. Even if they put like a 5-minute clip, because I mean, I know Returnal's like around the corner, so that's probably why they didn't want to, but I think that would have still been a smarter use of their time.
Well, what they did, here's what they did, because I'm sure you didn't watch the full 2 hours. So Returnal played twice, I think once or twice, and Ratchet and Clank played it in the beginning. I think it was. They had some videos in the beginning during the countdown towards state of play.
Okay, so it wasn't the actual state of play. It was just like commercial stuff.
It was a starting soon entry, and I think if I was the developer for Returnal, I would have been ticked.
Yeah.
To be honest, because that scene was something that you would see in the commercials. It would be something that you would want to have voiceover and talk about Returnal. You know what I'm saying? I was interested in watching something about Returnal mainly because it was, this game is fire. You're hearing that on social media. So I'm like, yeah, let's dig into it. Let's find something about it. Nah, it's a part of your countdown for the initial state of play. Yep. So I'm watching it as Dio states, Among Us and Subnautica is being played, and then here comes Ratchet and Clank. I said, okay, cool. Ratchet and Clank, I know this is about. When I think of Ratchet and Clank, I think Ratchet and Clank is like a mixture of multiple games in one. Yeah, I don't think there's the only thing that was very good about the game that is, can I say innovative, was the going into different dimensions.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
But that was it to me, because everything else was kind of like, your typical third person shooter. I think can I say looter shooter, single player?
Not looter shooter, but it's like a platformer adventure game.
Gotcha. So it's pretty cool, and then it's done. And that's it.
I would say the thing that, like I said, like the Ratchet & Clank, it looked clean. I liked it. It looked cool. But it just felt like it just made the whole first half, and it's not even half because like the majority of it was the Ratchet & Clank, the 15 minutes. It just made you feel like you wasted your time, because they might as well not have even made it a state of play. They might as well just had been a Ratchet & Clank update. You know what I mean? Like had its own thing at that point. And to tell you the truth, it kind of made me a little nostalgic for like those old days of when you had Sega with Sonic, and then Mario for Nintendo, and then you had like, I mean, I know Crash didn't belong to Sony, but Crash, like back in the day, was indirectly like Sony's kind of like mascot. It made me miss those days. I was like, man, even though I wouldn't play it, I would like if Microsoft did something maybe for like Banjo-Kazooie or some other kind of Animal like Conquer or something. Like bring one of those guys back, give us like our own kind of thing again. But I don't know. It was
Biomutant coming out soon.
But that's not exclusive, is it?
I don't know. I don't think so. But yeah,
I mean, it looks really cool. I don't think so though. It looks really badass. I'll definitely be playing that.
So, I mean, other than this Sony debacle, because I think we can talk about how bad that was for a while.
Yeah.
What else you got, Dio?
Well, I mean, some positive news, I guess, for Sony, and bad news for Marvel Avengers. Their director left to rejoin Naughty Dog.
Ooh.
I don't know if you've heard about that.
Interesting. No.
Sean Eske. Yeah. Naughty Dog literally put it on their Twitter and everything, like, welcome back, Sean Eske. And it's like, damn, and then he's like happy to be back with the dogs. And it's like, that's cool for him. That's cool for Naughty Dog. But, man, like, Marvel Adventures is like struggling. And it sucks because it's a good looking game. It has good gameplay, but it has a crappy end game with no gameplay loop. And you're losing, like, your main guy, like when it still hasn't been fixed yet.
Yeah, you're losing that key kind of leadership.
Yeah, but then at the same time, who knows? Maybe for the better.
Yeah, I feel like it's a sinking ship.
It is. It really is.
It's a bit of a shame.
Yeah, it really is, because I mean, it's just like when EA messed up Star Wars at first, right? It's like, how do you mess up Star Wars? It's the same thing. Like, how do you mess up Avengers?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a little good news for Sony right there. I think the funniest thing I've read this week, though, was Google Stadia is rolling out their new innovative search engine,
Oh, man.
They're doing what with this search engine?
I mean, search feature in Stadia.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you've looked at the... like, when you look for games in Stadia, pretty much and people complain about the Microsoft Store being crappy. I mean, this is pretty much worse. I mean, all you do is see a bunch of games, and then you like cycle through them. So you can't even like search for the game you want to play by name. You gotta like go down the list.
Yeah, you gotta navigate through the menus and scroll through your list.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yo, imagine having a search bar.
Well, soon. They don't even have it yet, but soon they'll have it.
I mean, that's great. Right?
Yeah.
That should have been day one, since they own the Google search engine. I mean,
since they own Google.
Since they are Google, you figured the search engine would have been like, guys, we're gonna make a game. Okay, so what should we start off? What should we start off with? And it would be like, the search engine. You know what I'm saying? Like, that would have been it. Like, you have a store, you have devs are making games. People want to search for your games. Search engine, like,
right.
So what have people been doing the whole time? I mean,
just cycling through games, man.
Like, what does it even look? What does the UI look like? You know what I'm saying? Is it just like you open up Stadia and then boom, there's like all these games and you're just flipping through like.
Yeah.
Like, when you go to the store, it's just a bunch of boxes and it shows the cover art of that game.
Wow. How many games they got? Like 5?
I don't know. I remember when we first talked about it. It was like 30 or so, or 50.
How much? How much per row? Is like 5 per row, so it's like 6 rows.
I think it's 4 below per row.
4. Interesting.
Yeah. So you're cycling through a lot. I think the crazy thing though is that people were literally like liking it and writing nice comments. Like, why are you praising them about this? This is a basic function that's been in like stores for online gaming for at least 2 or 3 generations now, right?
Dio, we know why they were
Search
liking
bars
it.
have existed for years.
We know why they were liking it, Dio. They were employees.
True. Employees and bot, right?
I mean, it would suck if they bought their own console. Usually you would take it home and test it.
Yeah. They probably had to get the sales up there, right?
That's messed up.
It's the big search. It's that big search industry.
I just can't believe that Stadia, like when they even wrote it in their Twitter, it's like, get a sneak peek into the next feature coming to Stadia. It was like, come on, man.
And you know what it was? Their search engine. Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah, but you can now search.
I don't know. It's just...
Guys, we're finally adding basic functionality.
You can use hashtags.
Yeah, that was like I don't know, like that's like the biggest fail in gaming. I don't know since when, man. That's really bad.
That's interesting.
Something that was I thought this was very smart and strong. Like this is like the total opposite, right? Like you have Google Stadia people like, yay, we're finally getting a search engine, even though we should have had it. Where you had the Nintendo fans for Animal Crossing specifically, they're pretty much in an uproar against the Animal Crossing team because they keep releasing the updates, and it's like they're not really listening to their fan base. Like their fan base wants a lot of these like little quality of life changes, but they keep giving them other things instead, like cosmetics and stuff like that, which is cool. But it's like, help us. We want to keep playing your game, so help us do things where we can craft in bulk or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Make it so we can have these shopping options, and because the thing about it, they just keep like recycling a lot of their content, and it's really sad because they have a lot. The Animal Crossing sold very, very well, and it keeps selling very well.
Yeah, huge game.
Yeah, but a lot of fans are really just kind of done with it. A lot of I really hope Nintendo listens to this, because usually they are pretty good at listening to their fan base when it comes to. I'm not gonna say in listening to what games that the fans want to come out, because there's definitely a lot of games the fans want that are not out yet. But when it comes to current games, they usually listen to them pretty quickly. So hopefully this will change. But I mean, it's been like at least a year where a lot of these complaints have been just lingering. So I don't know if it's just Nintendo getting too comfortable or what. So I mean, good on the fan base there, like actually speaking their opinion and not just being like typical fanboys and letting them get stepped on,
Exactly. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Dio, we talked earlier, and there's some things happening with ESO that's coming up soon. What's going on with ESO?
There's actually a lot. I mean, it's probably one of the better MMOs that a casual player could get into, because it doesn't have that daunting task where it's like, oh, you got to get to this level to be good or whatever. You can still play with your boys at any level for the most part in most content, and even in the things that you need to catch up on, it doesn't take very long. But these changes that you're talking about, there's quite a few. I mean, you had the companion system, which again kind of caters to that new player experience. You have these companions that will level with you, and you'll be able to gear up and edit them the way you want to. So if you want like a companion that can heal you because you feel like you need a healer but you don't have anybody playing with you at the moment, you could do that. If you want a companion that could be like a tank, you could do that. it's really interesting that they've added the system to the game, and I never expected this, because it's something we had in the old games.
So is that coming out? When is that coming out?
I think later this month actually already. I was gonna say next month, but yeah, it should be this month.
Okay.
And I mean,
would it be worth jumping in now, or should you
wait
until the DLC is implemented? I mean,
it's always
with the core practices of Cinematics Online, should you get the game now or download now? If you're on Game Pass, I mean, it's free, of course.
Yeah, on Game Pass it's free.
But
I mean, honestly, ESO is a game that's really easy to get to at any time, and it's usually on sale, like probably every other month or whatever, on Steam and other online stores. So I mean, just getting the base game itself has so much content, and even carries on all these updates. Where usually when you buy your typical MMO, like, not to throw shade at Final Fantasy 14 or World of Warcraft, but I mean, you buy that base game, you're locked to that base game pretty much, right? Like, you can't experience all the other stuff. It's similar to that in ESO, but most of that is not really mandatory, where it is like in World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy 14. If you want to get to max level in Final Fantasy 14 or WoW, you have to get the newest expansion. Where in ESO, you want to get to max level, you could be in the base game. You never have to buy any of the other content. And for the most part, you're going to get some of the more important core aspects of those new expansions into the base game. Usually the other stuff that are coming with the expansions is like quests, extra dungeons, and that kind of stuff. So it's not something that's mandatory, which is really smart.
And there's a plus. Every person in that game, NPC, is voiceovered.
Yes, actually,
everybody. There isn't there is no scene. There is not one scene in the game where you have to read anything. Everybody speaks.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound like a big deal to some people, but it actually really, really is. Like, I mean, you play your typical MMO, and that's not the norm. I mean, most MMOs really, really rely on text, reading all the quests, which, for some people is not a big deal. But I think for the majority, once you play a game that's fully voiced over, you kind of don't want to go back,
Right. Once you play that ESO and you realize from beginning to end, you didn't have to read a single thing except for like a book that you pulled from a shelf or like a scroll that you found on the floor. Of course, that's not going to read to you, but outside of those two things, like every being in that game like has voiceovers that can talk to you, and there isn't that choice where, if you make the wrong choice, then you're gonna have to go this specific path. It's more of and I could be wrong, but I think it's more of when you speak to that person themselves would decide what they would give to you or not, right? In some way, form, or fashion.
It's really quest dependent. I mean, there is some meaningful choice, but you will still get through the story. There's very little choices where it's going to prevent you from doing something. For the most part, even if you choose one way or the other, you're going to end up having to just maybe do it differently. So it's still worth it to like do a playthrough and then try the other route. It won't change it drastically. There's only like a handful of choices that I can think of that really drastically change your gameplay. But I mean, even then, I mean, it's still interesting, especially like when you have like the funny options to pick. That's really cool.
So how many races are there in this game?
You had the typical races. There's a few different type of humans. You have the Imperial, you have the Nord, you have the Red Guard, you have the Breton. So those are like your four human races that are different from each other. And then you have the Orcs, you have the Argonians, which are the lizard people. You have the Khajiit, which are the cat people. And you have the High Elves, and you have the Wood Elves. So I believe that's it. Just 9 races.
It's all about those Argonians, bro.
Yeah,
it's all about the lizards.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And And honestly, they're pretty balanced race wise. I mean, for the most part, you should pick the race you like based on how they look. To pick on racials is still meaningful choices there, but I think they've done a really good job with balancing for the most part, that you could really pick any race and not really feel like you're weak compared to everybody else.
Gotcha.
Like, you'll find a way to balance your build, whether it's through your skill points or through your gear or even your champion points, which is something you gain at max level. So it's honestly probably one of the better MMOs to play, especially if you're a casual player and you could only play for like a few hours every night, or throughout the week. Like, you don't have to hardcore grind it like, World of Warcraft Classic,
And the story itself, like if you do like a story at a time, there is so much story in there that you're not gonna really feel like if you do one story a day, you'll be fine. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to like push for like complete story completion. You could do like a day, because they're chopped up pretty well. Even if it's what is it called? Even if it's like a sequential story where you do this and then you have to go somewhere else to do something else, it's almost as though it's like, how can I put it? You don't have to follow the narrow brick road. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. There's so many different ways to go at one thing, and then you can still take your time. There is a journal that you can track all your stuff, so you don't have to worry about being lost specifically. But the worlds are huge. The worlds are definitely huge.
Oh yeah, I mean, even leveling. I mean, you can level pretty much however you want. If you want to quest as you level, you could quest. If you want to just grind enemies and do it that way by killing them, you could do that. You want to PvP the whole way up, you could do that. You could want to do dungeons the whole way up, you could do that also. There's a lot more choice in this compared to a lot of other MMOs where you have to find, go that linear path into leveling.
Oh, and Don, there's a
yes.
There's a guild called the Dark Brotherhood.
Oh, yeah. I know of these people.
Mm-hmm. And
I know of these people.
And you go on assassination trips.
Yes.
So, I think for that little bit of thrill to sneak around and do some stuff, I think that might be of interest. You and Glint can try that out, because it's worth having a buddy on those. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to play a certain way, like Abang was saying, you have the Dark Brotherhood, which is pretty much the Assassin Guild. You have the Thieves Guild. You have the Mages Guild. You had the Fighters Guild. So, and you can still do all these different guilds even if you play a certain kind of way. Just that if you really want to get into that role play of it and you want to be that immersed, like it does a very good job of that compared to other MMOs. Other MMOs typically they usually do better in the multiplayer aspect of it and the social aspect of it, where this does that also. But if you really just wanted to play a single player, you could do that like easily and feel super more immersed, like your character's actually living in that world. I mean, they even have player housing, which is also one of the stronger player housings in most of these games too.
So, yeah, man, that's what's up right there. I encourage you to try it out. But guys, this is it for the show. Yeah, we did have a little bit of an interrupt, but we came back. Definitely leave some information into your chat. Send us an email, Digital Cypha digitalcyphapodcast@gmail.com if you want to leave us a message. Send us a line, critique, feedback, whatever. We are all is just trying to grow. So until then, thank you very much for stopping in, and we'll be here next week Saturday.
Thank you guys.